Hey, everybody. I just wanted to say the past 11 days have been really tough for everyone. Everyone is in pain and trying to make sense of it, and we'll never make sense of it. And the holidays are hard, I think, anyway. But to honor Twitch, I think the best thing that we can do is to laugh and hug each other and play games and dance and sing. That's the way we honor him, is we do the things that he loved to do, which is dancing. He loved music. He loved games. He loved games. He loved games. So we do that. And I know it seems hard. It seems impossible. But that's how we honor him, and hug each other and tell each other we love each other and let people know we're there for them and check in on people. So happy holidays, everybody. And I know it's not a happy holiday, but he was pure light, as everybody in the comments said. If you knew him, you knew that. If you didn't know him, you saw it. Let's honor him and think about him and send love to one another.
He loved games.
Sup, sobers. So, fun fact, what's the difference between a hotel and a motel? Something I've always just kind of wondered, but never really looked into. But hotel obviously is like, you go stay in it. They've got lots of rooms, usually park in like a parking lot, enter through a lobby. They've got bellhops and like carts to carry your bags. You're usually going to stay there for like multiple days at a time in a single area. But a motel stands for motorist's hotel. And it's typically designed for people to pull in, have a quick stop, stay overnight, and blaze out. They've got easy access with a door on the outside of the room that typically goes like right to a parking lot or right to your car. Essentially what I'm saying is that a motel is specifically designed for people that are traveling. And I've always just grown up thinking that motels were just like really rundown, shitty hotels. I mean, technically that's still true, but that's the actual distinction between a hotel and a motel. And I'm sure you're wondering, who cares? Why are you telling me this? Well, in our story today, they consistently say hotel in some reports, and then in other reports they say motel. I was just like, is it a hotel or a motel? Because it keeps making it sound like a motel. The difference, I feel like, is kind of key, especially in the case of Stephen tWitch Boss. Hopefully you guys caught my Anne Heche video last week. It's kind of a precursor to this video, because in almost every single comment that I get requesting Anne Heche, it always comes with and Twitch. It's always both of them. So I figured,
Let's go. Alcohol.
all right, welcome back to Sobering Stories, everybody, with me, DJ Petrovsky. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome. This week I am going to my cousin's wedding, so my time for editing and filming and all that is more limited than normal because, well, we're kind of going to be up there for a few days, and I'm going to try and enjoy some of it, and I don't want to be stuck editing, plus I don't know what that whole situation is going to look like. So there isn't really a sponsor this week, and I don't have any business items this week. But I did want to say shout out to all of you guys because the channel is still continuing to grow. If you're someone who just found this video, you've never seen my face before, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. You'll get notified every Friday when I post videos. And I think you'll enjoy what we have going on here. Honestly, the community, the content, everything's great. So that's, I don't know, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you guys. Thanks for jumping in the lives. Thanks for keeping me not only entertained in those lives, but I learned so much from you guys each and every week. And I love doing this. It's literally, I don't know, I just really thoroughly enjoy this. So thanks for being a part of my journey. And thank you guys for just being loyal members of the sober sector. And also thank you for understanding and appreciating the value and importance of a subscription and what it means to be a subscriber. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've literally never heard of DJ Steven Twitch Boss in my entire life, at least not until people started recommending him. And it seems like every time I go into a week that I think is going to be a quicker, shorter research process, quicker video, much like this week, I end up dead wrong. Always. This rabbit hole goes deeper than I could have ever imagined. I got lost on so many side quests. It was just, I don't know. Regardless, I am excited to tell you guys about Twitch because his story is not only strange, but also it just highlights so many amazing things about an amazing human being. He is someone who was always himself. He was true to himself and he pursued his passions in life. And he eventually was able to fulfill lifelong dreams because of that. So I think that he's just an inspiration as a human being and truly a tragic loss. Stephen Laurel Boss was born on September 29th, 1982, to parents Connie and Sanford Boss. His mom was a nurse, his dad was a mechanic, and he grew up in what we would call the working class. Blue collar. I don't know what else you'd call it, I guess. He was the middle of 3 boys, older brother Jamal and younger brother Dre. And honestly, they had a pretty decent childhood, fairly normal. They definitely didn't grow up in any sort of affluence, that's for sure. Now, the 3 boys all grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm not sure how much you guys know about the Dirty South here in the U.S., but they're kind of the last section of the population to have adopted any sort of new mainstream ideas about inclusion and diversity. They're also still holding on to a lot of more traditional values and ideas, especially in 1982. I wouldn't say that people there are still actively racist, but I certainly would say that tensions are still high there between the different cultures. 100%. There's also a huge emphasis on very traditional values. Boys will be boys, girls should be girls, boys should be playing football and doing boy things, and dancing is certainly not one of those things. But Twitch was hooked on dancing from a very young age, from the age of 5, kind of like we talk about here every week. He was absolutely obsessed with Thriller by Michael Jackson, and he would watch it over and over and over, and he would sit there and practice these dance moves just imitating Michael Jackson. As he continued to get better, he developed a style with his dancing, and his brother eventually decided to nickname him Twitch because of how jolty and kind of twitchy his dance moves were. And if you've ever seen him dance, that's definitely exactly how he is. By the age of 12, Twitch was sneaking out and going to dance at these different clubs like 334, and he would do these dance battles, not even really doing anything to make money, just to practice and hone in on his skills. But by the age of 16, when he was in high school at Robert E. Lee High, he was getting bullied nonstop because, well, he was into dancing. He wasn't into the typical boy things like playing sports or, I don't know. I don't even know what else boys were supposed to do then. Things got really bad for Twitch, so bad that he almost quit dancing altogether after he went down to Atlanta for a dance battle, and he ended up winning $50 in this dance battle. But afterwards, he got jumped. He ended up losing a tooth, and it really started to make him wonder if this was going to work out, if this is something he really wanted to keep pursuing. By this point, Twitch was dabbling in different drugs. He was smoking the devil's lettuce. He was sipping on that styrofoam soda, and his brother said that it was pretty normal. It wasn't anything like they were abusing it. They weren't going crazy with it. They were just dabbling like teenagers do. Plus, he was in this underground dance scene, and I'm sure that that was definitely something they were doing, just experimenting like kids do, you know? But after suffering this existential dance crisis, Twitch took 3 weeks off, but in this 3 weeks, he watched this movie called Breakin', and it's just a breakdance movie from the 80s, and it got him super hyped about dance again. So he continued pursuing it, and in the year 2000, he graduated high school, and he went on to study dance performance at Southern Union Community College. And then he would leave there after about a year and go over to Chapman University, where he would study dance performance as well. But after about a year, he would drop out. Probably like most artists, they realize, like, I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not learning what I want to learn. I'm just learning this dance theory and all this other nonsense. But he wanted to get out and perform. So he packed up his things, he moved to LA, and he started working on all these different auditions for these different dance shows and dance competitions. so that he could start to work his way up as a professional dancer. In 2003, he was actually a semi-finalist on MTV's Wade Robson Project, just like a dance competition show. So it wasn't really his big break, but it definitely got his name out there. And it was mild success for him out in this new world in LA. Then he would go on to audition for another show called Star Search. Very similar idea. Doesn't say anything about him placing or anything really, but getting his name out there and continuing to pursue this professional dance career. He started auditioning for different roles in movies, and he actually featured, unnamed dance character, flamboyant dancing guy in the movies Hairspray, and he was also in the movie Blades of Glory. In this same year, he auditioned for the show So You Think You Can Dance, and he didn't go much further than, the initial rounds, but he did get his name on the show, and people really recognized who he was. His dance style was pretty unique, and people really were hoping that he would move on to the next round, but he didn't. But he returned again the next year in 2008. This year, he actually did a lot better. He went all the way to the end, and he was actually the runner-up to the finalists at the end of the show.
My name is Stephen Boss, aka tWitch. I'm 25 years old and I'm from Montgomery, Alabama.
tWitch, let me be perfectly honest with you. If you don't make it through Vegas this year, I'm going to kick your ass. Do this!
This is where he got his real big break. Everybody knew who tWitch was, and everybody knew his signature dance moves and his extremely twitchy style. In the years to follow, tWitch would pretty much be a regular guest, nearly every year, just doing guest performances. But he would also go on to do a number of TV and movie roles. Most notably, he was in Stomp the Yard: Homecoming in 2010, and then he also was in pretty much every single Step Up movie. And these are all dance movies if you haven't seen them. And he was even in Magic Mike XXL in 2015. In 2013, tWitch went back onto the show So You Think You Can Dance and did a guest performance with Allison, Holker. And the two of them must have really hit it off, because from that point, the two of them started dating. And shortly after that, they would get married. The two of them would go on to have 2 kids together. And Allison already had a daughter from a previous relationship named Wesley. Allison is also an alum from the So You Think You Can Dance show from season 2. She didn't win, but she placed in like the top 8, I think. So the two of them had that in common. But the two of them were just this power dance couple. They were great. Everybody loved watching their TikToks. Everybody loved watching just their beautiful family evolve over the years. Honestly, people just fell in love with this couple. After gaining some substantial notoriety from this dance show and then all these different movie roles, tWitch was then invited to be a guest DJ on the Ellen Show. She really liked him from all the dance stuff he'd done, and she just wanted him to come out and see if he could bring up the life of the show, because he had such a bubbly, fun, energetic aura about him. Basically, guest DJ, they're not like a real DJ. They like play music, he dances during the breaks, he, plays sound effects, gets people hyped for the guests to come out, stuff like that. But tWitch had never DJ'd before any of this stuff with Ellen. He was mostly just a dancer. So this was kind of a new role for him, something that was new and exciting. And honestly, a role with the Ellen Show at that time was huge, because the Ellen Show is massive. Ellen liked what tWitch did so much that she decided to bring him back to be full-time DJ. And he would be with the show from 2014 all the way through 2022 when the show finally ended. In 2020, Ellen would actually name him as the co-producer of the show, upping his salary quite a bit, obviously. And then he wrote out the entire toxic workplace allegations that we discussed in the last video last week with Anne Heche. He stood behind Ellen throughout everything and then came back for the revamp of the show, all the way through the end until 2022, when Ellen finally decided to call it quits and end the show because ratings were just going down. Obviously, working for Ellen that long, the two of them developed a real close bond, really tight relationship, so much that she invited him eventually to be the co-producer of the show. So that should show how close they really were. He also got to make friends with a lot of other celebrities. Ellen has nothing but famous celebrities coming on her talk show, talking about different stories, just having a good time. And of course, Twitch is one of the main people on the show, so I'm sure he got to know a lot of these people. And one of the people that visited the Ellen show quite often, actually, was the guy we talked about last week, Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Brother Love Combs.
I heard you're scared of clowns.
No.
I heard that.
Impossible.
Why is it impossible?
Because I'm a black man.
You can be
I
scared.
have so many other things to be fearful of. A clown is not going to scare me.
Really?
Yes. I'm not afraid of clowns.
But I heard that you were.
Throughout all of this, one thing that can be said overwhelmingly is that Twitch was just full of life. He was always in a positive mood. He always had a smile on. He had this unmatched energy about him that he could literally just light up a room. And that never changed from start to finish. From his auditions way back in the day, all the way through the end of the Ellen show. He still had that same spark, that same light. And now he was a family man. So his focuses had changed. And with the end of the Ellen show, he was kind of looking to see, like, what's his next move? What's his next chapter? And so he got invited back to be a judge on So You Think You Can Dance for season 17, which I think was great for him, keeps him in the dance world, but it also highlights where he's at in the dance world now. He's kind of reached the top level. He's done some of the most professional things you can do as a dancer, and now he's on the other side of it. He's now judging on the same show that got him his big break. He also starts doing all of these TikToks with his wife Allison and his kiddos, and it's just amazing. Their TikToks go viral, and they're really good. I mean, him and Allison are both professional dancers, and so their dances on TikTok are really good, and I hate those videos, and even I watched them for a while. I was like, man, this is fun to watch. Like, Twitch is a really good dancer. And so is Allison. These TikToks were amazing, and it just showed, at least from the outside looking in, that this family looked happy, healthy, fun, loving, and they were close. By all accounts, Twitch seemed to be doing just fine life after Ellen, which is why it seems real strange that on December 12th of 2022, at about 10:15 a.m., he leaves his home without saying anything to anybody. He's caught on a security camera or like a local Ring camera. We're not really sure exactly what camera it is, but he's allegedly caught on camera getting into an Uber with nothing but a small black backpack on. He takes this Uber down the road 3 miles, only about 15 minutes away, to the Oak Tree Inn, which is this dumpy little motel not too far from his house. He had called previously to check to make sure there was availability, and he booked a room for one night. He checked into the motel at about 10:30 a.m. People who work at the hotel, including the manager, notating that nothing seemed off about him. He was in positive spirits. He was polite. He smiled. He said thank you. Nothing seemed off about him when he checked in. He checked into room 249, and that would be the last that anybody would ever see him alive. Now, allegedly, Twitch turned his phone to airplane mode once he got to the motel, which would make it so that nobody could contact him or track him using like Find My iPhone or whatever, I guess. But Allison writes in her memoirs much later on, which contradicts a lot of the other things that I read or that she said, that Twitch actually called her at 10:45 p.m. on December 12th. He seemed like he was kind of messed up, kind of out of it, and he just kept saying, I messed up, I messed up. And she kept asking him, like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you messed up? But he wouldn't say what. And then when she asked, like, where are you? What's going on? Where are you? He wouldn't tell her and eventually just hung up the phone. The mainstream report, which is the report that most people have seen and know, is that she hadn't seen him since he left at 10:30 the day before. She immediately thought it was strange that he left his car behind, but she had no idea where he went. The thing that's kind of concerning to me is it took her a full 24 hours before she realized that Twitch was missing and it might be a bad thing. Seems weird. Now, allegedly, Allison says that she woke up the next morning on December 13th, 2022. At about 9 a.m., she realized that Twitch was still not home and his car was still in the driveway, which really worried her, obviously. So she decided to try and call him 17 times. Of course, he doesn't answer. His phone's either off or on airplane mode, which really worries her, but not enough for her to just call the police. No. She decides to go down to West Valley LAPD police station and report him as a missing person directly, which I mean is strange, but also I think kind of makes sense. So, I don't know, definitely an interesting piece of the puzzle. This all happens at about 11 a.m., not very far away from here. At about 11:21, the maid is trying to get into room 249 because the guest in there hasn't checked out yet, but checkout time was at 11. So she's trying to get in, she opens up the door, she sees there's nobody inside, so she proceeds to check a little bit further, and what she finds in the bathroom probably left her scarred for life. But she finds Stephen, tWitch boss, unalived in the bathroom. Looks like he suffered an apparent wound to the head. It is recounted by Motel staff that it was, quote, a bloody scene. So it must have been pretty rough in there, I can only imagine. The initial news reports came through saying that they had spoken to hotel staff and people that were on site, on scene when it happened. And what they said was that there was no note located in the room. No note found. And yet somehow in the aftermath of all of this, we get all these news reports coming out saying there was a note left. There was definitely a note. Stephen tWitch left a note. And the note doesn't ever get disclosed, obviously. But the one thing that they do say is that it vaguely and not very clearly hints at some unresolved past traumas and some unresolved issues that he was dealing with, some personal demons that he was fighting kind of behind the scenes, behind closed doors, giving us all the reason in the world to believe that this poor guy, he was just so depressed, and behind closed doors, this is all he could think about, and he just had to leave and do this. Obviously, the police are notified, and in investigating, they come to find who this young man is, Stephen tWitch boss, and they also find out that his wife, Allison boss, has been trying to locate him, so they quickly let her know, like, hey, we think we've located your husband. He's over here at this Oak Tree Inn. We need you to come identify his body. And of course, she takes it super hard. She's screaming. She can't handle it. She's in the fetal position, crying, just kind of losing control. And she unfortunately identifies the body, and it is tWitch. Now, obviously, things are already a little bit murky. But one of the biggest questions that I had was, what was the deal with this whole gun situation? So I was trying to figure out, like, what type was used, where he got it from. Did he have it when he got to this motel? Like, what's up with this? And it's literally never mentioned, which I found particularly strange. They never mention a caliber. They never mention a model. They don't even say what kind it was. They don't even mention whether it was or was not found, which I found really strange. In most other cases that you see, they'll list out the caliber. They'll list out exactly what kind of weapon it was. They'll give you everything. And you're almost like, I don't really need to know this. Why do I need to know this? But in situations like this, it's kind of interesting, and it makes you wonder, where did this weapon come from? And eventually it does come out. Allison says that the only thing she really knows about it is that he had mentioned in 2020 during the pandemic, with all the riots and all the looting and people going crazy, that he wanted to get one, but she never knew whether or not he did go through with it and got one. The only thing she knew was that there was a safe at home that was open. Supposedly this weapon that she didn't know existed was missing out of the safe. One of the most interesting details about the gun thing, though, is that not a single person in the motel that night, which was fairly busy, ever recalls hearing any sort of shots, no loud noises, no big bangs, nothing really out of the usual at all. News reports all say that because of the U shape of the building and its proximity to the road, that it'd be hard for anybody to hear something like that. But I call BS on that. If a gun went off inside of a motel room, people are going to hear that. And not even just that, I also looked up a bunch of different reviews for this motel, which are not good, by the way. This is like a 1-star motel. This place is terrible. People talk about blood on their sheets. People talk about bed bugs. They talk about really disgusting stuff in the rooms, the carpet being gross, mold, ants, pretty much everything. But one of the other things they talk about is paper-thin walls, being kept up by neighbors, being kept up by people partying, being kept up by people just talking regularly. So these walls are super thin, and it was a busy night at the motel. So this is not something that's going to go unnoticed. Nobody heard the shot. Was it a silenced shot? Was there somebody else there? Allison also continuously contradicts herself. She'll say that there was never any signs. She had no idea that this was coming. She didn't realize that he was struggling the way he was, and that this was really totally out of the blue. But then, on the other hand, she'll tell police at the scene that he definitely seemed like he was going through something lately. He seemed a little bit off lately. And she starts talking about how she just felt like there was something going on, but she didn't quite know what it was. So she says there was no signs, but then she also says that there was signs. Confusing. The investigation does not last very long, and some of the things I read made it seem like the reason for that was Allison kind of pushing for things to get closed. But within 24 hours, they already had an official report saying this was a simple self-exit situation. They called it an accident. The motel didn't even shut down business after this happened. They just closed off the one room. Isn't that crazy? But really, you guys, we've got a mystery on our hands because this literally makes no sense. Why would a guy who was a loving family man, who exhibited no signs, had no history of mental illness, and didn't do anything more than just dabble with different drugs here and there when he was younger? He was not an addict in any way, according to people who were close to him. So why would he suddenly leave his house, not take his car, go to this weird, trashy motel, and then proceed to just end it all? It doesn't make any sense. And even more than that, I thought it was extra messed up that he put his phone on airplane mode, so not only could he not be contacted, but he couldn't be tracked either. It's the ultimate middle finger to his family. And I just could not imagine a guy like tWitch, who loved his family so much and was such a dedicated family man, that he would do that to him. In every single story we cover, it seems like they just give the middle finger to their family, and that doesn't ever seem like something that they would do. It doesn't speak true to their character. The other thing we seem to notice in all of these stories is the wife always acts very similarly shady. I don't really get it. I'm not understanding why it happens, because in each of these stories, I don't get the vibe that the wife is actually the culprit. But they always do weird stuff. They always do these things that make you question, like, what's going on here? And in this case, it's no different. Allison does a bunch of things that are weird, especially following what happened with tWitch. The first and one of the weirdest things that she did, and I know what you're thinking, is, was he cremated? No, he was actually buried, and it was actually about a month later that he was buried. But in order to attend the funeral, Allison had everybody, including tWitch's mom and close family members, sign an NDA.
You know, I just have to say something. You know, I feel like somebody from Stephen's natural family should say something. And you know, the last time that I recorded, I pretty much was talking about the NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and how we were asked to sign it in order to see Stephen or memorialize him at his funeral. And I'll be honest, you know, I'm not a celebrity. It was very difficult to navigate the whole concept of having to sign a piece of paper in order to see my cousin, whom I loved and valued. And so that was very difficult. But the entire time that we were asked to sign that NDA, the rhetoric was that we were doing so to protect his legacy. And as I stand today and I hear what's in the news and I see what's going on today, I refuse to believe that NDA, the reasons why we were asked to sign the NDA, had any merit, because there's nothing that happened today that was meant to protect his legacy.
What? Of course, the family is not stoked about this, but what are they going to do? Like, she kind of controls this whole thing, and she's not going to let anybody attend that doesn't sign this NDA. And of course they want to be there. But that is the weirdest thing ever. What are they not supposed to talk about? Like, what are they going to disclose? Is there something about his body that they shouldn't see? I'm not sure if it was an open casket or not. That wasn't mentioned. But I would doubt it was if he sustained a wound to the head.
Listen, you actually think that it is cool to make his mama sign an NDA to see his body?
Yeah, I do.
Oh my God.
I would do it again. I would do it again every single day for the rest of my life if I needed to.
To see his
I would
body?
do it again and again and again.
Why would she need to sign an NDA to see his body?
It's great. But also, I don't understand how y'all don't understand that Steven's even asked her to do it.
He didn't ask her to sign.
I would do it again. I would do it again every single day for the rest of my life if I needed to.
You hear that?
According to most sources, tWitch did not have a will at the time of his passing, and Allison wasted no time filing for custody of his estate. Even though everything would legally be passed down to her in most cases, she went to court to file for the estate to be handed to her, and she fought to get pretty much any of the rights to anything that he owned, including any sort of recording rights, any sort of any rights from the Ellen show, any royalties he was receiving, and the entirety of the estate, keeping anything from the rest of his family and ensuring that it all goes to her and the girls. Which doesn't seem too crazy, but it does seem a little weird when she immediately, by January 11th, starts working on this, and that seems to be her main focus. I mean, that's only a month after he had passed. But according to the family, one of the most effed up things that she did was she dropped the boss name within 48 hours on her social media platforms after Twitch passed away. That's a bit sus in my opinion. So it's giving really, really strange vibes to pretty much everybody, especially Twitch's family. They're not buying that Twitch self-exited, and they're certainly not understanding why Allison is doing all this stuff and keeping the girls from seeing any of them. And they're not alone. Most people seem to think that something was up. There's foul play at hand here. Especially because this is only 4 months after what happened to Anne Heche. Something seems fishy. To convolute things even more, the official Coroners Report. How come I can't say that right? Coroners Report. The official Coroners Report. Coroners Report. To make things even more convoluted, the official Coroners Report. Coroners Report. How come I can't do this? Coroners Report. The official Coroners official Coroners Report. Coroners. The official Coroners Report says Coroners Report. To convolute things even more, the official Coroners Report, I can't do it. The official Coroners Report says that there was no drugs found in Twitch's system at the time of his passing. A lot of people were speculating this must have been some sort of drug-induced episode that he just up and left like that. But he doesn't have a history of it. He doesn't have a history of anything mental health related. It was definitely out of the blue. And of course, with the lack of details from this report, speculation is ablaze on the internet. People seem to have found answers when, out of nowhere, this close friend and colleague of Twitch named Columbus Short comes out of nowhere with these allegations that the reason Twitch ended up the way he did is because he just lost his entire life savings after investing it through this company called FTX.
What's up, guys? Back again. Checks and a Rex and a let's begin. Party on, party people, let me hear some noise. See Shorts in the house, jump for joy. But it's not a joyous day. We lost Twitch. I don't want to talk about reasons, but let's get down to the brass tacks of it. A lot of people lost a lot of money recently. Fuck FTX. And that's the only time I'm going to use that word. For that man and everybody that was involved in that. Steph Curry wasn't involved in that. Twitch wasn't involved in that. Every celebrity, they were just doing what they thought was going to be working. And it didn't work. This guy robbed everybody. So he's getting his work. But look at what it has done to families. People lost millions of dollars. I'm talking about millions of dollars. And this is a billions of dollar lawsuit that's about to go down. So I'm just saying, today we're going to try a little tenderness. We're going to try a little care. But I'm going to say, I don't care. Tracy Christian, where's my money? My money don't got nothing to do with your piss poor decision making. Yo, so just got off the golf course again. Still, RIP Twitch. And what I talked about earlier, you guys don't know what people are going through. People made investments. People do a lot of things. This is just a theory. People are awful. You know what I mean? Like, people like Twitch are not awful. Twitch was amazing. Is amazing still. His legacy shall live on. But, what if you invest in something that took your whole life savings, possibly? It gets rough. It gets rough. I don't want to speak too much on that, but here what I will speak to, Tracy Christian still haven't given me my money. And this is what I'm talking about. It's like, why? Because you got caught up You can't pay me my money in a trust account. I do not trust your account. I do not trust you, Tracy Christian. And I'm not going to kill myself. I promise you that. So pay me my money.
Now, if you're not familiar with the FTX Ponzi scheme, scandal, whatever, it was started by this guy named Sam Bankman-Fried, and he goes by SBF, which is way easier to say. And he started this cryptocurrency investment business, essentially. They would help you invest your money, trade, invest cryptocurrencies. And it became a pretty big business. I mean, I think it said they were like an $8 billion or maybe a $38 billion a year business at their peak. But the same guy, SBF, also had another business where he would do more risky stock trades, exchanges, investments, and it was called Alameda Research. And essentially what he was doing was he was taking these people's money from FTX who were trying to invest their crypto and invest these monies into crypto, and he was essentially just reinvesting it into his Alameda Research company and then using those funds to make riskier decisions, make riskier investments, and to play with a little bit more, but with this other company. And it doesn't take very much for a giant Ponzi scheme like this to crumble. But just one little article posted on November 2nd of 2022 by a little publication called CoinDesk. They discuss how the balance sheets from this Alameda Research company are filled with these FTT tokens. And these tokens are essentially a native cryptocurrency that was created by FTX. And essentially it is not backed by anything. It's just a made up cryptocurrency. It's essentially like a big stack of like monopoly money with no value. But the balance sheets on Alameda Research are loaded with all of these tokens, basically saying that their books are comprised of this monopoly money with no value. And because it's the sister company of this company, FTX, it is a huge red flag for a lot of people in the industry. There's this company called Binance, which is FTX's main competitor. They actually own quite a few shares and quite a few of these FTT tokens. They decide this is shady, we're out. They decide to sell all of their tokens, all of their shares of the company back to FTX. And this starts a wave because when people start to see these big companies selling all their shares, they've got people and machines and stuff to watch this happening, and they're like, oh shoot, well I got to sell my shares. So all of these investors and all of these people who invested money through FTX start asking for their money back and selling their shares. Of course that money's not there because it's been all being funneled through Alameda Research and being used on these risky investments. And the money may be tied up in different investments, different deals, shady stuff, who knows? Essentially, there's no money to pay these people out. SBF has to declare bankruptcy, and a huge investigation ensues. And one of the most interesting things that I found that correlates with this story is that SBF was actually arrested, and this whole scheme was kind of brought to light and brought down on December 12th. Of 2022, the same day that Twitch decided to up and disappear. And this might mean something, might mean nothing. But on December 13th of 2022, a New York Police Department evidence building catches fire, tons of evidence burned, tons of cold case evidence, active case evidence, lots of things were lost in this fire. None of it was really tied to anything having to do with Twitch or Diddy or Epstein or anything, anybody really. But it was interesting, the timing of everything, just kind of wild. In relation to Columbus Short's theory, the internet lights him up. People are saying, I can't even believe that you would do this to a guy who just recently passed away, taint his name like that, make up this crazy story about something completely unfounded. And the reason people are saying that is because, well, Twitch's wife came out and said that they are not struggling financially. There was no financial issues, nothing going on that would indicate that he had lost his entire life savings to this whole FTX downfall. To make him even less credible, he deletes the post very quickly after this. He gets tons of hate and decides to just take it off. But the internet doesn't just light up Columbus Short. They light up Allison Holker as well, because she comes out with this memoir. And this memoir is not only documenting her life and her time with Twitch, but it also has a lot of never before seen or heard details about the final days of Twitch. And some of these details that she brings forth don't paint Twitch in the best light. Allison mentions how her and a friend were going through Twitch's closet trying to find some clothes for him for the funeral. And as she went through the closet, she ended up finding this shoebox or this box of some sort that had, quote, a cornucopia of drugs in it. All different types, just all these different substances, some of which she said she had to look up. She didn't even know what they were.
I was with one of my really dear friends, and we were cleaning out the closet and picking out an outfit for him for the funeral. And it was a really triggering moment for me because there was a lot of things I discovered in our closet that I did not know existed. And it was very alarming to me to learn that there was so much happening that I had no clue. So it was a really scary moment in my life to figure that out. But it also helped me process that he was going through so much. And he was hiding so much, and there must have been a lot of shame in that. And he was wrestling with a lot inside himself, and he was trying to self-medicate and cope with all those feelings because he didn't want to put it on anyone. Because he loved everyone so much. He didn't want other people to take on his pain. But it was very alarming and scary to find those things and have never known.
She also mentions in this book that the only thing that Twitch was truly struggling with was the devil's lettuce. And he had actually talked to her about going and admitting himself into rehab, getting himself into a program so that he could ditch this habit. But that was the only known substance that he was doing or that she had knowledge of him doing up until that point. She also talks about how she found this journal, and she starts going through this journal trying to find answers, is what she says. And allegedly, she finds journal entries where Twitch is talking about being SA'd as a child. He talks about struggling with imposter syndrome, which is basically where you don't feel like you deserve the accolades or the status that you have. But honestly, he really did. And she goes further to talk about how this journal alludes to so many different things that he was keeping hidden from the rest of the world. He was just suffering in silence, so much so that not a single person, not his friends, not his family, not his kids, and not Allison, not a single person knew that he was struggling this bad. And so not only is this pretty wild stuff for her to allege and to come out with and do multiple interviews about, and despite Twitch's wife throwing him under the bus and sharing all these things about his journal, saying that he was a huge addict and found this cornucopia of drugs, there were no drugs found in his system per the autopsy report. So it makes you wonder if she's even telling the truth at all about anything that she was saying. The journal, the drugs, anything that happened leading up to what happened, we have no idea. The family sure doesn't buy it. I think ultimately the biggest question I have in all of this is why did he go to this dumpy motel? If he wasn't doing some sort of business deal, why this motel? Seriously. 1 star. But Twitch's family is ultra pissed. They don't like this at all. They see it as just her smearing his name and a way for her to make money and capitalize off this situation.
You were asked to sign an NDA to go to the funeral?
It became, if you don't sign, you will not be able to see him and you will not be able to participate.
In her now-released memoir, Allison Holker expressed concern about pictures of Stephen leaking to the public.
To make me sign a document to see the child that I brought into the world? I can't even put into words what that feels like. Mm-hmm. I guess my issue with it is that we are family. I'm his mother. What did you honestly think I was going to do?
Those details were also a shock to Stephen's younger brother, Dre Rose. So did you know about any of these issues before the People magazine article came out? Cornucopia of drugs, including mushrooms, pills, and other substances, implying that he had a serious drug issue.
I knew that recreationally he's used or tried things. That wasn't a shock to me. This cornucopia of drugs that had to be Googled, we don't even know if those were, we don't know anything to be true.
Finish that sentence. We don't even know if those were his?
Yes, I mean, really, it's hearsay. It's someone else's version. And if that is the truth, there could have been a better way to bring that to the family, and then we discuss, what that meant.
Were you aware of possible sexual abuse in his childhood? You knew nothing about that?
That was
so that was a shock to you to hear that?
Yes. It was a shock to me. It was a shock to our father. Because when that comes up, it's like, well, hold on, a male figure in the
male figure,
right?
Yeah.
So now you have our family looking at each other like, well, what happened? And we didn't know anything of that nature.
And unfortunately, I have to kind of agree with them. Like, why would you come out and write this memoir? One of the other weird things she did is immediately after Twitch was found the way he was, she goes online on social media and makes like a heartfelt condolences post saying that we lost Twitch today. That wouldn't be the first thing on my mind if my partner just passed away, like letting people know what happened, making a social public post. The family's appalled, but the internet is too. A lot of people are wondering, like, why? Why go through this? Why do this to him? Why smear his name like this? It just doesn't seem like she gets anything out of it other than book sales. But one of the more interesting things that she mentions about this journal is that Twitch suddenly became obsessed with this creepy, strange, weird artwork that had these super messed up faces, these faces that either didn't have eyes, or they had weird messed up eyes, or they had X's for eyes, or it looked like some creature wearing some sort of mask. Just really weird face artwork. And the first thing that I thought of when I read this was the artist Jean-Michel Basquiat. Jean-Michel has a really interesting and unique style of art. Very much mimics like graffiti art, which is where he kind of got his start. And it's just some really interestingly strange, bizarre artwork. But it is very easy to identify because he does have such a unique style. One of the most interesting things about Jean-Michel is that he was a member of the 27 Club. He ended up overdosing on the black tar at the age of 27. But even at the young age of 27, he was one of the most renowned artists of the 1980s. A lot of his work focused on different dichotomies, integration versus segregation, wealthy versus poor. Kind of interestingly enough, a lot of his artwork talks about the power struggle between the different social classes. And yet because his artwork was so popular, it is now worth so much that most of the pieces that he made only are hung up in wealthy, elite people's homes. In fact, Jean-Michel's artwork is still popular amongst the wealthy elite to this day. There's many celebrities like Jay-Z, Lenny Kravitz, Leo DiCaprio, Johnny Depp, Ellen DeGeneres, Ben Stiller. All of these people own Basquiat artwork. But one of the most interesting pieces I think that I've seen is this hoodie that Ellen DeGeneres and Jay-Z are both wearing. It's got a picture of this red, messed up kind of face, and then on the sleeves, it just says, "Ah." And as I looked more into this hoodie, I got into one of the deeper rabbit holes that are out there. I'm talking about Frazzled.rip. There's actually 2 other videos that I found which show Ellen DeGeneres, and it looks like Jean-Michel artwork in the background. First video is her cutting her mom's hair, and she's got this super weird piece of art behind her mom, and it says like RIP TTT or like XXX or something like that. Definitely an interesting piece.
You turned 91.
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. You don't use scissors?
Believe me, you don't want me using scissors.
It's pretty good.
Another talent Ellen has.
Yeah.
What a kid.
I hope you like it.
Do you cut your own hair?
You know, you asked me that.
Well, I'm asking you again.
Last time I said no, this time I'll say yes.
The other piece that she has, we actually see it in this video where she is wearing that Basquiat hoodie. And in the background, we see another piece of his. It says bad thoughts. And then underneath that, it says revenge with this like black and white skull thing.
Hey, my friend.
How are you?
I miss you.
I miss you.
So, look, now people are going to start texting me now that I'm... what are you doing? You hunkering down and dancing?
Yes, hunkering down and dancing. Allison and I just finished TikToking.
Hey, Allison.
How are you guys?
Good. Well, hanging in there. You?
Yeah.
You know, we're so bored.
I know, but you have
talking all day.
You have babies to entertain you. You have children. That's a good thing.
See, that's what you would think. It's funny you say it to entertain us.
Uh-huh.
No. Say it to entertain us.
Uh-huh.
No.
No. They expect you to entertain them?
Absolutely.
Yes, 100%. I can't tell you how many times they said to us that we're bored.
Yeah. And this is the quietest the house has been because the two younger ones are down for a nap right now. It's amazing.
All right. Well, I'll take advantage of that time and talk to you. So I'm calling because we know that everybody is stressed out and anxious, and the one thing that we know is that Game of Games is a show that the entire family that's all stuck together right now can watch. So I just wanted to call and have you help me remind everybody that that's what we need to do right now.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, it's already fun to watch just as a family anyway. We do it, and you're going to be together anyway. And then just kind of play along, right? Like, you can even probably create like a little Noah go for yourself on the couch or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, make it a drinking game. So, like, whenever I mean, I'm looking for any excuse to have a drinking game right now for anything. So,
I mean, that might be dangerous, though.
Yeah.
So listen, we love you. We just wanted to call and send love and
Hi guys.
Hey, Force.
Hi.
She's filming
I've
this,
been filming,
so we can post this. So anyway,
Okay, cool.
we love you, and we'll all watch Game of Games tonight and feel better and happy and laugh and forget about this for
Absolutely.
an hour or so.
And we'll drink. Y'all have a
Yes,
shot
and
for us.
drink. Yeah. Whether we're watching or not, but yeah, it's yeah. All right, love you both. All right,
Bye.
Love y'all.
bye.
Bye.
Game of Games.
Game of Games tonight. It's gonna be fun for the whole family. You'll laugh and forget about everything in the world right now for a little while. Sending love.
His artwork is super cool, don't get me wrong, but I could not understand for the life of me the obsession that all these celebrities seem to have with his artwork. In particular, this one red painted face looking hoodie piece of artwork. And I couldn't even find the actual art itself. The only time I've ever seen it is on this hoodie. But that was until I found this video.
Symbolism will be their downfall. Or is it just art? And let me be the first to tell you, it's all connected. I mean, if you know, you know. But first, let's go back to that video of Ellen DeGeneres. When the camera turns, you can see the inside of her house. Now, see that picture right there? Well, if you pause it and look it up, it says evil thoughts with revenge right next to it. Here's another picture of Ellen in her house, and this is the picture behind her. Now, the thing I'm curious about is the letters on top of the picture. These look oddly similar to the letters Marina Abramovich writes out when she does spirit cooking. Remember the beginning of the video? It's all connected. And that person that was in all red is Lady Gaga, and she went to Marina Abramovich many times for teaching. But let's continue. This is another picture of Ellen in her home. She's cutting her mother's hair, but what is that picture above her head?
Now, if you look at Wilson on the volleyball from Tom Hanks, who we've talked about extensively, and then you look at this dress that Lady Gaga wore, I don't even know what award show, and then you look at this painting that's on this hoodie with this red face, there's a lot of speculation that these are all representative of this supposed alleged video that exists that's circulated on the dark web that supposedly shows two female politicians whom you very much know, good old-fashioned Hillary Clinton and Huma Aberdeen, and they're doing something to this poor young girl that is just unfathomable. Now, this video got unearthed because of a guy named Anthony Weiner, and his wife is Huma Aberdeen, and the two of them shared a laptop. But he was being investigated by the feds because he was having text exchanges with a minor. So they ended up opening up an investigation. They confiscated his laptop and all this other stuff. And as they were going through it, supposedly they unearthed this video. But in this video, supposedly Hillary Clinton cuts the face off of this young girl, drinks this young girl's blood, wears her face on her own, and then dances around this girl's body laughing. It's some sort of weird, occult, ritualistic sacrifice kind of a thing. Now, I searched for 2 hours on the dark web trying to find this thing. I couldn't find it. I'm really sorry. But what is said is that this artwork that is constantly being depicted, especially on this hoodie, the Wilson from the Castaway movie, Lady Gaga's weird, creepy dress that she wears, and even if you look at the picture of Jean-Michel Basquiat himself, he kind of looks just like Wilson. It's very strange. But what people say is that this artwork is depicting this poor girl who had her face taken off, and it's kind of their way of rubbing it in and almost boasting about it in plain sight. So with all of that in mind, When Allison comes forth with this journal and talks about how Twitch was obsessed with this deformed, messed up, mutilated face artwork, my mind immediately went to this video, this Basquiat artwork, and all this stuff that Ellen, Jay-Z, and all these other elites seem to be interested in. All I could think of was Twitch must have found something out, or maybe he was involved in this little network. Something must have happened. But that's when I came across this X post, which seems to explain that Twitch did come across something, and it might have put his life at risk. I figured the best way to go about it would just be to read this to you guys, though. Insider Stephen Twitch Boss didn't just pass away, he was eliminated because he became a liability to a sprawling network of power centered around Ellen DeGeneres, Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Brother Love Combs, and a secret society known as the Order of the Obsidian Circle. This group, rooted in Hollywood's underbelly, orchestrates blackmail rings and ceremonial sacrifices to maintain control over elites and protect their black market empire. Twitch, after years as Ellen's loyal DJ and co-executive producer, promoted in 2020, stumbled into the heart of this machine. His demise wasn't a random act of despair, it was a calculated hit masked as a self-exit, executed with precision to silence him. But what was the motive? Well, it's being said that in 2021, Twitch uncovered a hard drive in a locked drawer of Ellen's studio office containing footage from Diddy's infamous freak-off parties. Events where celebrities, politicians, and moguls were recorded in compromising acts with trafficked minors. Names on the guest list include Barack Obama, Adam Schiff, Oprah Winfrey, all captured in moments that could ruin them. Ellen, a key player in the Obsidian Circle, used this blackmail to secure her influence while Diddy provided the logistics through his Bad Boy Entertainment network. Backed by Blackwater mercenaries for enforcement, Twitch, initially unaware of the depth, copied the drive, intending to confront Ellen privately. By mid-2022, Twitch's demeanor shifted, he grew distant, stopped joking with staff, and began journaling obsessively. His wife, Allison Holker, later found entries hinting at childhood trauma and a dark secret he couldn't unsee. But the real bombshell was his mention of Ellen's vault and Diddy's dungeon. He'd pieced together that the Order of the Obsidian Circle wasn't just a rumor. It met monthly in a bunker beneath Diddy's Holmby Hills mansion, adorned with obsidian altars where sacrifices, both symbolic and literal, occurred. One ceremony in October 2022 involved a young dancer from So You Think You Can Dance, Twitch's old stomping ground, who vanished after declining a private audition with Diddy. And that guy is Columbus Short. Columbus Short was supposedly groomed by Diddy in like 2007 or 2008. Later on in 2021, Columbus Short got a random text message when he was in bed with his wife from Diddy saying, "Yo, you should come over. I'm at this hotel nearby. Come hang out." And he said, "Who's with you?" And he said, "Just me, by myself." He was like, "No, I'm good," and totally turned Diddy down. So this is saying that one of Twitch's old friends vanished after declining a private audition with Diddy. Isn't that kind of interesting? Very strange in my opinion. A lot of people said that Diddy was working on grooming him, but because he turned him down, maybe Diddy had some dirt on him, had something on him, and convinced him to go and be who we're going to talk about in a minute. Ellen sensed Twitch's unease and alerted the Circle. On December 10th, 2022, Blackwater operatives led by a former commander named Eric Prince, still active in shadow ops, tailed Twitch to a dive bar in Encino. They slipped carfentanil, a sedative 100 times stronger than this, into his drink, staging a breakdown. 2 days later, on December 12th, they abducted him from his home, drove him to the Oakwood Motel on Ventura Boulevard, and forced a gun into his hand. The self-exit was staged with a single wound to the head. The weapon wiped clean, but left with his prints, Blackwater's signature for deniability. The coroner, a Circle initiate named Dr. Thomas Noguchi Jr., signed off on the report without an autopsy, citing family wishes. Why Twitch? He knew too much. Names, dates, the tunnel system linking Diddy's mansion to Ellen's studio. Used to move victims' sources from a human pedal hub in Thailand and Ukraine. He threatened to go to the FBI after a heated call with Ellen on December 8th, recorded on a burner phone, later destroyed. The Circle couldn't risk exposure, especially with Diddy's empire already under scrutiny from a separate DOJ probe into his parties. Twitch's passing was a sacrifice to their god of secrecy, a message to others like him. Step out of line, and you're next. How weird is that? So Columbus Short, talking about the FTX stuff, was also being groomed by Diddy back in the day, and even up until recently was still being contacted by Diddy, had his personal phone number. That to me leads me to believe they weren't close, they weren't friends, so Diddy only had his phone number because he probably had dirt or something on him. He had his number just in case he ever needed it someday, if he needed a favor. And if that's not enough to convince you that Ellen was into some shady stuff, well then let's check out this Wayfair situation. On Ellen's line of Wayfair products, she has these weird storage locker things, and each one has the name of a girl, which is already kind of weird. Why would you call some big industrial storage locker some girl's name? People have looked further into this, and all of these names are names of missing persons, specifically missing young females. The other interesting thing is that there's a ridiculous price tag on all of these items. They're like 10 grand for one of these storage units. So what are they actually buying? And she also sells these little throw pillows that have personalized little names on them, and those are also 10K. What? That's crazy. The most interesting piece of all this, that I thought anyways, is something that we've already talked about before in our Isaac Cappy episode in relation to Tom Hanks. We were checking out this Instagram post he made about SRC USA, and we talked about how if you search that in Yandex, it pops up tons of CP. So the same thing is true with all of these SKU numbers for these different products. If you type in SRC, the abbreviation for your country, USA, USSR, and then that SKU number, it pops up different types of CP. What? Tell me that's not a little weird. So of course the internet's ablaze with speculation, and tons of people have put these things together, showing that these are actually names of missing girls. And it definitely begs the question of, what are they actually selling? Are these price tags for some secret service that people are paying for, and they're just doing it right in plain sight, right under our noses? I don't know, but it is weird. Wayfair came out and said that, of course, these prices are wrong, and we use a randomized AI name generator for all of our product names, which in my opinion doesn't seem like a good system. And also, what? That's random as hell, that all of the names would be names of missing persons. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But this is a super wild theory, you guys, and the more I looked into it, the more fascinated I got. So I ordered one of these pillows. Nah, I'm just kidding, I don't have 10K. But if I could, I would put an order in just to see what happens. Just another piece of the puzzle, you guys. Another layer, another stack on this shit sandwich that we've got going on. I also watched the SLOAN Bella video talking about what happened to Twitch, and what she says is that there was a double agent, someone who crossed not only Twitch, but was supposedly crossing someone else. And that's why Twitch was going along with exposing what was happening, because he thought he was doing the right thing and was working with someone he was close to. Him and Columbus Short, they worked together on a movie, and then they also were in the same circles of dance, obviously, so they were definitely friends. But SLOAN Bella says that there was a double agent that basically double-crossed Twitch. Twitch was saying, okay, yeah, cool, I'll go get all this information and do all this for his friend who said, yeah, we need to do this, we need to expose this. But really, his friend was working for somebody else. So my mind immediately went to Columbus Short working with Diddy, and he was telling Twitch, like, we've got to take down Diddy and Ellen. But really, it was Diddy telling Columbus Short to make this all happen so that they could find out who the leak was, find out who they couldn't trust. And I thought SLOAN Bella's take on things was not only really interesting, but could be very likely. But I found it even more interesting after I found this video of this guy who gets a letter from one of his viewers, and this person was apparently a close friend of Twitch, and they have some interesting things to say about what actually happened that day.
I'm tapping in with you because we have the same mutual friend in blank, and I wanted to plug you in on what's being said about Twitch being found passed away in that hotel less than a mile from his home. So TMZ offered several thousands of dollars to obtain the footage of Twitch entering the hotel, documentation of him actually securing the hotel room, and the S-note that was said to be left in the room. Well, TMZ normally is successful in securing documentation that even your top-notch news networks can't retrieve, and they were firmly denied access to it by the hotel and law enforcement. Also, there is a former employee from the hotel that says that the room that tWitch was found in wasn't checked out to anyone that Monday, or at least there was no documentation confirming that he had checked in. But according to the former employee, there was a gentleman who came in around 9:30 p.m. that Monday night, and he picked up an envelope at the front desk, and it wasn't an envelope that came from the hotel. This was a professional looking envelope that seemed to have been packaged and sent from an outside source, and the former employee said in detail that this gentleman was well dressed and looked to be of a Arabian descent, but something about his facial features were off and he didn't make eye contact. And according to a member of the hotel staff who described this guy's face as also looking awkward and damn near fake, he was seen leaving tWitch's room in the wee hours of the morning and picked up in a Sprinter van. So that is what's being said out here in Los Angeles about that situation. So anyways, hit me up. My number is blank.
This all sounds almost identical to what SLOAN Bella was saying. And man, that last part, the guy's initials were CS, Columbus Short. Crazy, right? It feels like we're starting to piece some things together. And kind of one of the last pieces with all of this that I found to be really interesting is that Columbus Short actually came out when all of the abuse allegations were coming out against Diddy. And he comes out and has his own allegations, talking about his own situations with Diddy. But with that in mind, it made me think that Columbus Short already had a past and a history with Diddy. Diddy likely had some sort of blackmail or something over his head, and likely used that to help him get to tWitch, because him and tWitch were fairly close. He might have been responsible for trying to throw everybody off of this scent by throwing out the whole FTX thing in that FTX video he was talking about. Suddenly he's making this random claim it's completely baseless, but he's making this claim that FTX is the reason this happened. Almost seems like he's trying to get people off of his back, keep people from looking at him and his possible involvement. And we have to keep in mind, this is all happening after the Ellen show has ended. Ellen is kind of just in this void of space. We don't really know what's going on with Ellen, but things seem to be going downhill real quick for her after her show ends. We talked about it last week. We're talking about it again this week. And I think it speaks volumes that once Trump was elected, Ellen and her girlfriend or wife or whatever picked up and moved to England in 2024. It makes you wonder if Trump getting elected might have other implications other than just him being the president. Maybe he's trying to drain the swamp. She's getting the hell out of Dodge. So I don't know, you guys. A lot of interesting, weird information and a lot of stuff to process. But I want to know what you guys think. Drop it in the comments. Let me know if you think this has something to do with Ellen. Let me know what you guys think about the Basquiat artwork, because that stuff was super interesting to me, especially that hoodie. Yeah, just let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. I know I did. This was a super interesting one to dig into. Rest in peace, tWitch. I feel bad for his family and his girls. I don't know. The more we do these cases, the more similarities we see between all of them. And I cannot get over how weird Allison was acting. It just gives me hardcore like Vicky Cornell vibes, or Chester Bennington's wife vibes, Robin Williams' wife vibes. I don't know, just really strange. But that's all I got for you guys this week. I look forward to doing this again with you guys next week for another one. If you guys can't get enough Sobering Stories, I'll leave a Sobering Stories playlist at the end with every single episode I've ever done. I'll leave my Diddy Do It playlist at the end with all the Diddy stuff going on. Plus, Diddy kind of fell into this one too. And then I'll let YouTube choose a video for you because, I don't know, why not? But if you don't subscribe to the channel, please just subscribe. Don't waste your time. Just subscribe. It's free. It's free of charge. I really appreciate all the love and support from you guys. But we'll do this again next week. And until then, sleep safe, stay sober, and let me know if you guys find that Frazzled.rip video. Later, sobers.
Let's go.